Sometimes I have to wonder, what does it take for a man to realize his own worth is not what he expected it to be? You try some things and they don't work out. It hurts. Sometimes you have to deal with pain in different ways. It doesn't always come physically. It can come emotionally in least expected ways. A job that you always wanted to do, that you felt like would fulfill that inner part of you, deep inside of you, that you had a commitment to long ago to do, to give back. But then you realize over time you have changed, not just in physical aspect, but mentally too, emotionally, how you handle and control and regulate your emotions. Sometimes those feelings change the direction and flow that you have in life. There's always that old saying, I've heard it so many times in so many songs and by so many people. If I knew then what I know now, if I truly knew then what I know now, how things would be different. But regardless of how they would be different, I feel like I would still come to the same outcome. Everyone would eventually come to the same outcome. I've heard it before, the phrase, the sins of our fathers. The reason we think of that phrase, I think of that phrase, is because we think that our life sucks sometimes. The ups and downs, the roller coaster rides, the hardship, the negative cognitions and emotions. I think we feel that way because we feel like our fathers before us have done things that weren't pleasing to God or to whoever people may believe in. I believe in God, but to whoever people may believe in or whatever they may believe in, if they believe in anything, but they feel like their sins, the bad things that the people, their fathers before them committed, were now suffering because we were supposed to lead those same footsteps, yet we want to change it. I'm trying to change it. I've been trying for a long time. And some days it's good. I feel confident in that change, but other days I feel like it's only gotten worse. I feel like a failure sometimes. It's normal to feel like a failure sometimes, but not all the time. No. Those days, the failure days, should not outnumber the feel-good days. When you fight to change something that wasn't meant to be changed, and you start to realize that, it becomes hard, and it becomes hard on you. It becomes hard on the people that you are emotionally attached to and those that you are intimately connected with. The ones that you're emotionally attached to, they reciprocate your feelings and they try to offer comfort. They try to offer stability and support for you emotionally because they want to understand what you're going through and how they can help. and they'll almost go to the ends of the earth to get to that point, even if it means hurting themselves emotionally. Those that you're intimately connected with, those could be people that you work with, people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, or acquaintances, or just random people that you meet going to the store or purchasing gas from the gas station. Maybe your neighbor that you wave to as you're walking down the road. Those intimate connections are oftentimes different, and they are and can be separated from how you feel emotionally about the ones that you're emotionally tied to. Those intimate connections with those people may only last a few moments, maybe a second, maybe a few minutes, but not long. But yet, somehow, you rub off on them the feelings of what you're going through at that moment, and they reciprocate it. The difference between them and those who are emotionally connected is the ones you're intimately connected with, oftentimes they don't want to reciprocate those feelings if they're bad. But if they're optimistic and they're positive, they try to. But that's when your environment influences that. It's different because that environment shapes everything. You can go throughout your whole life and think that you are doing everything right to please yourself and other people. And then at the end of the day, the year, the next decade, however long it is, you come to a place where you realize that you've missed a lot of things. You've missed time. You've messed up time. If you could look at your life clock, and as it's going by slowly, you'll realize that some of those moments on that clock, it's like they hit the pause button. And then what you do from there during that time that's paused, it doesn't overlap the time that keeps going. And you want it to. You want to forget about that pause button. You want to forget that that pause button exists. You want to stop and reset. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works in life. The events, the things that happen in life that turn into events in your life, turn into these moments where that pause button no longer wants to reset. You keep pressing forward, and your timeline does not get adjusted. There is no end to your timeline. There is no ability to change it. Some people's time is very short, but yet they never really had to hit that pause button because there was so much joy in how they felt. Their feelings and emotions were positive. They have an optimistic view on life, even in the hardships that they are facing. Your face is going to get old. Your body's going to change. Sometimes even your heart changes. The heart knows what it wants, but your soul is not ready for that. Your soul tells you, I can only regulate but certain emotions right now. You've been through this before. You've experienced the pain, the heartache. You've experienced the grief, the trauma. I can't handle what you're trying to do to me again. Even though it's a different environment, even though you're not the same person you were before, I cannot handle that. But you want to. You strive to. You seek within yourself this ability to overcome your soul. But your soul has all these emotions and feelings and memories. All those memories. Those regulate those emotions. And sometimes you don't even know what's happening. But you push yourself through it. The heart skips a few beats. Then your soul reminds you, hey, remember, I'm up here. And I can regulate those tears. I can regulate your nervous system to give you shocks, sharp pain in your rib cage. I can regulate your sweat glands to start sweating, to make you feel like you're really cold, but yet you're having cold sweats. I can even regulate your breathing and make you want to faint or pass out. And I can even, if I have to, stop you from doing what you're doing. That pain from that injury you had years ago, oh, believe me, I'm going to hit those nerves. Because your soul, you've locked in those emotions, those feelings. And your soul says, I'm not going to let your heart change. Or your heart change how we do things. But yet the heart wants what it wants. The heart wants and desires that deep, deep, deep desire to change the soul. If you haven't gathered what I'm talking about, your soul is your mind, your brain. It's where the memories are stored. It's where the emotions are regulated. It's where the nervous system reacts to fight or flight responses. It's what regulates our pain. When you feel pain in your body, yes, you feel it physically. But your brain gives off that signal for that pain. But your heart wants so much more. Your heart has a mind of its own with a different set of emotions. It likes to stir the pot. It likes to tell you that you can do a lot more than you think that you're capable of doing. But the soul says, we've been here before. I know what you're trying to do, and I don't like it. Oh, it's a battle. It's always a constant battle, especially as you become an adult. When you're young, your brain and heart are not connected the same way as they are when you're older. As you get older, when you're young, your soul is more open-minded to allowing the heart to express itself. It says, okay, this is how we live, this is how we grow. You forget that everything that you've done gets stored up here, like a lock and key. It may take years for those emotions to come back out, and sometimes they happen right away, and you know that they're going to happen. You're able to regulate it a little bit. Medications help. Therapy and counseling definitely helps. Therapy and counseling only work if you can convince your heart to agree with what your soul is saying, they both have to align. They both have to come together in agreement. When they do come together in agreement, that's when you are connected and you are whole again. That's when therapy and counseling does work. Otherwise, it doesn't work. That's where that saying comes from. You have to want the change. You have to desire the change. It's more than just wanting that change. You have to convince your soul that the change is healthy. The heart knows that the change is healthy. The heart knows that the change is good. But it's not the heart you're trying to convince. It's your mind. We've heard that saying before. Your mind will play tricks on you. You should listen to your gut instinct. What's closer to your gut? Your heart or your brain? Think about it. You have to convince your mind that the change is good and that it will be beneficial for you as a whole. It's not easy. It can take years, literally years, maybe your entire life to do. But you can. And you have to start off slow. You can't expect it to happen right away. For some people, that does. Going through those moments, you look back to where this whole conversation that you're having all with yourself began with. It started from where you tried. And in your heart and in your mind, you have your own boundaries. When those boundaries are disrupted on both sides, you have to stop what you're doing. And you have to realize that this is not going to work. I'm saying that it's just not meant to be. I don't think, and I don't like it when people say, if it's meant to be, God will work it out, will allow it. I don't really agree with that. If you believe in God, God gave every human being a choice to believe. And that belief comes from a connected part between the heart and the mind. We realize that we can't see it and that we can't feel it. We can't touch it physically, but it's there. We believe it's there. It's like believing that every day you're going to have nighttime and every day you're going to have daytime. We know that as humans, we do. But God gave us a choice. Whether you believe in God or not, life gave you a choice. And your choice is to try. You do not know until you try. When you're younger, you can try, and if it works, you have to keep those two parts of you connected together, the brain and the heart connected together, the soul and the spirit connected. You have to keep them connected together. But once you start to separate them, the soul locks in those memories, those feelings, emotions. The heart can change. It can turn the other cheek. If you do that a whole bunch of times, you create more distance between the two. That distance becomes harder to get back together. It really does. And that's when you need help. That's when you need the proper tools, physiologically, psychologically, to help you get through it. You need more than that emotional connection from those people that you know. You need more than that intimate connection from the people that you are acquainted with, that you encounter. You need it from yourself. And that's where trying comes into place. You're not going to believe it's made to work or if it's going to work out until you try. And if it does not work out, it does not mean that it's not meant to be. Maybe it's not meant to be in the capacity that you think it is. And that's why you try going a different direction and coming about it from a different avenue. Not every path is straight and narrow. Not every path is wide. It's the path that you take and how you create that path. If you're going for a walk and there's something that you have to walk around, maybe it's a pothole, maybe a mud puddle, and you're just going for a simple walk down the road. Maybe it just rained and let's not say maybe, you're going for a walk in a neighborhood that you know very well, that you're very familiar with, a place that you go for walks, or a park, wherever the case may be. Regardless, you're familiar with this place. Your soul, your mind, your spirit, they're connected. We know this place. We know this path. And then you come across a giant mud puddle. Normally, you're just going to walk right around it, or you're going to jump over it. Whichever the case is, you're familiar with this. It works the same way in life. You cannot let those emotions disrupt that path. Those obstacles in that path should become natural obstacles for you to just overcome. The obstacle is only as great as you allow it to be. It's only as big and harmful to you as you imagine it to be. Staying connected to the path with assurance that that path will still lead you to where you want to go is how you keep your soul and your heart, your mind, your spirit together. But let's say the obstacle was physically so great in this path you're so familiar with, and all of a sudden maybe a catastrophe happens. Maybe lightning just strikes and a tree falls right in front of you as you're walking this very familiar path. And in fact, you're thinking, man, there's not really many clouds out here. It's not even really raining. I've done this dozens of times, hundreds of times. But that tree falls, the lightning strikes, the thunder roars, and you're scared. Oh, you're so scared. And in the midst of that path, you see destruction. It's like your whole life falls apart. The noise, the vibration, the flash of light, the object that fell right in front of you that disrupts your path. That's going to happen more than once. For some people, it happens one time and they never get past that obstacle on this familiar path. For other people, it becomes repetitor. It happens a lot, repetitively. So you decide, you know what, I'm going to turn around and go back. You go back. You've created your first boundary between your soul and your spirit, between your brain and your heart, how you regulate your emotions, how your body takes them and perceives them. But your heart says, we know that path. We've been down that road before. How about we try to change things? Maybe this time, let's not go out on a rainy or even cloudy day. It's got to be perfect weather. Let's not even, just to be on a safe side, I don't want it to be too hot, too cold. Good mild weather. You can deal with some of the humidity. 70, 75 degrees, boom. Let's try that. Let's make sure we have our good walking shoes on. You know what? Better yet, let's go get some new shoes. Let's try a new pair of shoes. Let's bring a bottle of water with us. Maybe even a Gatorade. Start walking down that path. Up. Hey, looky there. I see the shavings. They must have took a chainsaw, somebody did, and cut up that tree that fell. Thank you for doing that. I can see the leftovers on each side of the path. One over here and one over there. The logs. We walk right through it. We're happy as can be. We're excited. We're filled with oxytocin in our head. Yes, happy moment. We overcame an obstacle. The obstacle's not there. The soul says, I remember that. I'm going to put that lock and key. Boom, it's locked into your mind. It's locked into that brain, that storage capacity. Yup, we're locked in. Positive emotions now. The walk goes great. And you do this a few times. Each time you pass where that tree fell, you're like, yeah, we got this. We're doing it. We're doing good. And you get to a few more times and it becomes natural. The memories are there, but you keep rolling through with it. And you get a little further up the path on your normal walk, and then all of a sudden this dog jumps out of nowhere, like a wild dog just jumps out and starts barking at you like crazy and growling at you. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, does this dog have rabies? Is it going to attack me? So you freeze. You're frozen solid and you're scared. Even though you have dogs at home, you're a pet lover, but you know this dog is not being friendly. It's in attack mode. It's in defense mode. On this normal path that you always walk, and you've never seen this dog. Your heart's racing, the adrenaline's pumping. Your mind's stirring all kinds of negative things going on. We've been down this path before, but you've had an obstacle there before, and guess what? Here we go, another one. Man, we need to get off this path. We need to get off this path now. You want to run, or you want to fight. You're having these cold sweats, these chills. The panic sets in. Your eyes get big. Your mouth gets dry. Your breathing increases. And just when you think that you're either going to run or attack the dog too, because you're afraid it's going to attack you, or pass out, the owner of the dog just pops out, says, hey, come here, Fido. Come here. And he just starts wagging his tail, turns around, and goes back to his owner. He says, hey, I'm sorry, my dog's not very friendly around other people unless I'm around them. And you're thinking in your head, where the heck were you at? Like, oh my gosh, where were you a minute ago when this dog just jumped out to me? I walk this path every day. I know this path. I've been on this path. I've overcome obstacles on this path. I don't even know who you are. He's like, hey, I'm Mike. This is Fido. This is my dog. We're new here. We're probably going to be walking this path every now and then. I'm sorry my dog got off its leash and I was trying to run to catch up to it. I'm sorry if it scared you. You can pet him. You can pet him. See, he's friendly. And you kind of look at the dog, and the dog's wagging its tail looking at you all excited. And you're like, man, this dog was a completely different person. Completely different dog when the owner wasn't here. So you give in a little bit. You let the dog sniff your hand. You reach out and let the dog sniff your hand. You pet it on the head, and you're like, heart was racing. Man, you're looking at your watch. You're like, man, check my heart rate. Where'd my heart rate go? Oh, man. It got up there. It was like in the 130s, 140s. Scared the crap out of me. You're like, all right, I just want to get done with this walk and go home. We already know what the soul does. The soul takes that, stores it up there. The heart says, I felt that. I really felt that one. That's the second time now. The heart starts to become a little bit numb to the trauma. The brain doesn't become numb. In fact, your soul is like, yeah, we're going to remember this. Just wait till tonight and tomorrow night. Start having vivid dreams for a while of a tree falling, random lightning strikes, a dog attacking you. And then you're all of a sudden having a good dream, this happy path that you're so familiar with, you feel comfortable with. And for some reason, something jumps out and scares the crap out of you, and you wake up hyperventilating. Now when you hear lightning strike outside, you're kind of looking around and taking cover even in your own house because you're afraid the tree's going to fall. And when your dogs, because you have dogs, when they get excited, you're trying to get them inside after going outside to use the bathroom, they want to listen to you and they grunt at you. You've heard it before hundreds of times. And then they kind of snarl at you a little bit. And they've done this hundreds of times. They're old, they're getting old, they're grumpy. It freaks you out a little bit. You get that adrenaline pumping. You give them some space. That path that has become so familiar to you is disrupted. Now you do have boundaries and you have distance between what the soul wants and what the heart wants. What your brain says is okay and what your heart says is okay. You have got to bring them back together, and you want to. You want to. You have counseling, you have therapy, maybe cognitive behavioral therapy, existential therapy, maybe even narrative therapy approaches. Maybe you like the experimental side and you want to expose yourself, expose your therapy. Either way, you have therapy. It takes a while, a few weeks, maybe in a few months. You're like, I'm going to go for that walk again on that familiar path. And your brain is stirring everything up in here. But your heart says, I have a desire to change. I want this change. We need this change. We do, as a whole. Brain, work with me. We need this change. And in that moment, you start to walk. You don't even get to the part where that tree fell. The logs are now decaying on the side of the path. It's been so long ago. They're rotten. They're covered with brush, leaves, everything. And you can't even make it that far, and your heart rate's going up, and you're like, man, I don't get it. I feel fine. My body, I feel fine, and you're like, I'm just going for a walk. I know we've been through obstacles, and we've had hurdles in life, but, we've been down this road before. We can do this. But your brain's regulating these emotions. You practiced your therapeutic techniques. Okay, well, we can do this. Well, we tried a little bit. We almost got to where that tree fell. We'll go back home. We'll write about it. We'll journal about it. We'll practice some deep breathing, some meditation. We'll come back again tomorrow. Tomorrow comes. You get to the place where the tree fell. Like, man, we got here. Let's keep going. And you're approaching the part where that familiar dog that you remember But guess what? Mike's still walking his dog, Fido, and Mike comes walking by. Hey, you remember us? It's been a while. Where you been? Hadn't seen you in a while. Remember Fido? He wags his tail. You let him sniff you. You even pet his head this time. But your heart rate's still racing. And to the point that you're getting palpitations, you're skipping heartbeats. And you're like, okay, we made it this far. I don't think I can do it again. Starting to get those cold sweats, starting to panic. All right, I'm gonna go home. Go to my safe place. Go home, you journal, you do your deep breathing, you write about it. Maybe even exercise. Maybe you start something else, talking to someone who can relate with what you're going through. Start reading some books about boundaries and how to separate reality from what you're perceiving emotionally, how to regulate your emotions. We'll try this again. Maybe not tomorrow, but we'll give it a little bit more time. Those nightmares come back. You're getting used to it, but you're learning how to work with it. You're working on your coping mechanisms. You're putting yourself on away, not looking at anything, not even reading a book for at least an hour before you go to bed. You're just relaxing. You're giving yourself some time to heal. A little bit of time goes by and you go back out to that walk on that same familiar path. You get past the tree branch. You wave to Mike. You pet the dog. You're feeling good. You're even practicing cognitive reconstructing and imagining positive things in your life that have happened and developing a sense of awareness and how you perceive things that may encounter on that path. You're prepared for pretty much anything. At least you feel like it. And as you're going down that path, there's always something, right, on a familiar path. You're just thinking, I just got to get through the end of it. And as you get close to the end of that path, you notice that this path is no longer the same. The path that you've been walking doesn't even look the same anymore. It doesn't feel the same anymore. You don't even know if you want to keep walking this path anymore. Because maybe you realize that this path has changed you. Maybe you've been taking this path because you're so familiar with it and you want to stick with it because you've overcome obstacles in this path. While on this path, you've done things that you didn't think you could do. You've accomplished so much. Then you realize, I have a choice to make. And you tell your heart to say, hey, look, this is going to affect you a lot more than it's going to affect your brain, because your brain is tired of seeing these traumatic things that have triggered your emotions. And your heart says, we don't want to do a different path. Why can't the brain just listen to us? But you get to this point and you breathe. You walk that path. You get to the end of it. Doesn't quite feel the same. You try it just another time, maybe a couple more times. Same thing. You're getting better with it. But there's something different in the chemistry of how you feel about this path. Maybe we should take the path that we're less likely to take, the one that we have been avoiding. You haven't avoided this path, no, you've tried, and you've done very well overcoming the obstacles on this path. But you also kept taking this path because there's another path that you had a choice to take and you didn't want to. Now you're going on that path. And this new path will lead you the same direction, ultimately, but with new challenges along the way.